I really think the shop culture is all encompassed around the shop and the image of the shop. What is the business? What does it look like? What's the feel when you go into it? The main people running the shop, like how are they to deal with? I feel like those things are really important.
Beyond the Wrench with Jay Goninen from WrenchWay.
Welcome back to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. On today's show, we welcome back Gabe Christian from Import Performance. Gabe was on the show probably a couple years ago. I should have looked that up to see exactly when, but Gabe is one of my favorite people in terms of his perspective and how he looks at how to run a shop. What we're going to talk about today is really culture focused, but it's a different conversation about culture. It's really culture from within the shop and really kind of what creates that cool culture. So Gabe, we're here today to learn all about cool culture in a shop. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it. I actually did look back when I did that podcast, and it was at least 3 years ago, because it was,
It's crazy.
23, I think it was like early 23. So it'd been
that feels
quite
impossible.
A while. I know.
Yeah,
that's how fast it goes.
Time flies. What's new at the shop?
We're summertime trucking, you know. It's super busy. I got my full staff. We had some change up, you know, in the beginning of the year, which is typical. You know, not always what you want, but it's just how it goes, you know. But got a great crew again, super busy. Kind of going back to normal and just trying to, you know, keep all my stuff going to keep my guys happy and keep the place full of cars. But yeah, I would say it's going really good. We're going to have another great year.
For those that are listening, Gabe and I were talking before we hit record, and it felt like a therapy session. I felt bad for Gabe because I was kind of talking to him about business challenges and the shop world as a whole, and how sometimes that can be a little complicated, a little messy, especially when it comes to people, both on the customer side and the staffing side. But you just always have kind of this really chilled out vibe all the time. That do you ever kind of raise above that or below that? It's just always it's always fun to talk to you.
You know, I've heard that before, and I kind of feel like I just put on this persona and I just hide all the, you know, really when I'm off the mic, yeah, my hair is on fire and I'm running around in the shop like a crazy man. No.
If you're hiding it, you do a heck of a lot better job than I do, I can tell you.
I was going to say too about your therapy session. I actually really like helping other shop owners. Like I feel bad when guys are, you know, just struggling to, I don't know, to hire or to get more cars in or whatever it is. Cause it's not the easiest gig, you know. You could do something much easier. Yeah. But this is, I guess for some of us, we love it. And there is ways to dial it in. I do really like helping people, you know, just try to figure out what they're missing. Most of the time, I would say, like with the guys I work with on a weekly basis, they don't really listen, and they do the same stuff over and over and over again. You know, it's like making those kind of hard decisions to make the changes. They have trouble with that. A lot of people do. Like you got to really want to make it better for yourself and better for the shop. And, you know, there's upfront work with any kind of change or idea that you have, you know what I mean?
I do.
That stuff.
Well, it's always kind of like I forget the saying where they talk about, you know, you're going to, until the pain of changing is less than the pain of staying, you're just going to kind of stay. Right. And I think that's where a lot of times in a shop, that's when it comes to a blowing point where voices are raised and, you know, it's stuff that we've been holding on to for a long time. And it comes to a front to where all of a sudden all of that comes out. And I think as guys, that's kind of part of our DNA, right? Where it's that bottle it up and not let it out until it explodes. And
I
I
know.
think that's the challenge a lot of times in not confronting an issue straight on. And I'm a number one most guilty person of that in the world. And it is I probably one of my major weak points, right? And I think I'm
I feel
of
like
the
it's very common.
yeah, in our world for sure. And I grew up around that in a shop, and it's just always kind of been that way. So I I think I don't really have that fuse to light where it's real bad, but I've been in shops where that is bad, and that's not fun to be on the other side of that. And I think it almost causes like a paralysis within the shop, right? Where if you don't know what side of J you're going to get when I walk in the doors in the morning, it kind of creates this angst and this uncertainty that I don't think is great from a leadership perspective.
No, I mean, you just made me think of a little post-it thing I had below my monitor for years. It said confront persistence discipline. Like someone
Ooh,
showed, yeah, and it's just 3 words and it's kind of intense, confront, because that's like number one. Like, I mean, I had a manager before that always wanted to deal with things, the next day or the next week, let's get it figured out. I'll confront him next week. Like, no, 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 no. You got to confront things right away because tomorrow you're going to have something else, right?
yeah.
And then the persistence thing. I mean, I see this with a lot of shop owners as well. Like they do a bunch of marketing, get a bunch of cars in there, super busy, and then they're just like everything's fine. They're just going to go about helping the technicians fix all the cars. A month later, slows down again, no cars. It's like marketing is like one of those things that you have to be very persistent. You have to do it every month. You have to have a plan for the year. And if you do it like that, it's easy. You almost get rid of the job of it because it's just like every month the next marketing you're going to do. And um, but yeah.
It's autopilot. Yeah, at that point.
Hmm.
Yeah. And what was your last one?
Discipline.
Oof. Easy to say, hard to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think I'm disciplined in a lot of the shop stuff. My personal life so much, like trying to work out consistently. That's hard, right?
I, my co-founder and I, Mark, we talk about that a lot, and you kind of have a running joke that we probably shouldn't, which is diet starts Monday, and it's not worked well for either of us over the years. And my wife loves working out, and in fact, if she doesn't work out, she really is grumpier, like just not as happy if she's not working out. And there is some element to where I think us as business leaders, you get kind of stuck in the minutia. And it's an excuse, right? Because I've seen so many business owners or business leaders that are so good at that. And there are times where, like, say, if I hit the treadmill, which I'm good for a couple times a year, hit the treadmill, yeah, my mind is just always thinking about what I should be doing rather than that. And if you have your priorities straight, that should be like, hey, if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be around to do all of these really, really important things, right? So I,
True,
that
true.
discipline thing, so hard to get my hands around.
Yeah, like I said, I'm really good with the shop. It's like just really organized with it. But yeah, like the home stuff. Like I have a shop where my toolbox is at next to my house, and one rack and everything. And my shop here, the big shop is, it's immaculate. Like the tool room, everything is labeled. Like I keep it really clean and I hound the guys a lot. I love that. But my home shop, yeah, disaster. All my tools are out. Like, damn it. I always do a
It is.
project and then like leave to get home to like think about the big shop.
I feel your pain there as well. As we record this, we're recording on a Monday. I was finally home long enough for my home shop to kind of take some time to organize, and oddly, I love doing it. It's just having the time to kind of do it right. And
Hmm.
I will. I have this weird thing where if we're home on like a Friday night, I will like my son and wife will go to bed, and I have gotten addicted to watching YouTube videos about garage organization, which is probably the dorkiest thing I've ever done in my life, but it is
That's pretty bad,
fascinating.
yeah.
That's pretty bad. Yeah. Yeah. That's my getaway now, is watching videos on garage organization.
I love that. That's why I like seeing other people's shops. I take tons of pictures of, different things that give me ideas.
Every shop, dealership, and business in our industry depends on great technicians. Between the technician shortage, disconnected school relationships, and lack of trustworthy workforce data, it makes it difficult for shops to plan, hire, and grow. That's where ASE Connects comes in. Created in partnership with WrenchWay, ASE Connects is a membership designed specifically for shops like yours to help you build a stronger technician pipeline by connecting with schools, empowering you with tools and data to improve your recruiting, retention, and performance. With ASE Connects, you can connect with local schools through School Assist, start building relationships, and support the programs that educate our future technicians. You can also access verified data on technician pay, benefits, and labor rates through the Industry Data Exchange, so you know how your shop compares locally and nationally. Lastly, you can get proven strategies for leadership, employee development, and shop management through members-only guides, templates, and events. Join ASE Connects to strengthen your workforce and build a stronger, smarter shop. Learn more at wrenchway.com/solutions/shops or follow the link in the show notes. Do you ever look at like other businesses and how they operate and try to incorporate it like into your business? Because I always think that's fascinating, of things that we can take from other industries.
So yeah, I visited a friend not too long ago out in Asheville, North Carolina. He's got a big shop, similar size as mine, and we're always competing month after month. I think for the year he might be ahead of me right now, but I was beating him for most of the year. He just started going on a tear. But yeah, his shop was immaculate like mine. But one thing I didn't have that they had that I really latched onto is they had this really cool like commercial floor cleaner. Like the walk behind, and it like has a big brush in the front. So yeah, we have one now. Like literally, I got it last week. It was like $6,000. I'm like, I've got to have it. Like, and now my shop is even cleaner. So that was a great thing.
How did those work? I've always, because you see some of them are the ride-on ones, some of them are the push ones.
Yeah, so this
works
one
pretty good. It sounds like.
Yeah, it goes like back and forward, and it's easy to maneuver around. And they come with like kind of more of like an SOS kind of scrubby wheel up front. But for an auto shop, you should buy this like big thick brush, just because it can deal with the oil more and stuff. And then you put like, it's basically like simple green, it's just like a shop commercial floor cleaner, and you fill it up with water, and it literally scrubs and squeegees and vacuums up everything. Like, so you go through a guy's bay, and it literally cleans it way better than you can mop it, because it's actually like, scrubbing the concrete. So it's like, yeah, it's phenomenal. My shop is literally like the floor is like bright now. Like everyone says the reflection from the lights, like it's just like, yeah, it's great. I would highly recommend it.
Did you put like a coating down on your floor, or is it just general concrete?
It's like nice condition concrete, but it doesn't have it basically was like hardened with kind of like a little bit of a coating, but it's mostly just really clean concrete, but it's nice and smooth. I know some shops, even like my shop next to my house, it's like they didn't finish it as well or something like that. Like they didn't, polish it and smooth it down. So it's kind of just, it like holds the oil really bad, or my shop, everything wipes up really nice.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of your shop, and it is absolutely beautiful, very immaculate.
Thank
One
you.
of those little kind of attention to detail things that, I don't know if you guys do this, but I've seen more and more are people using the oil mats versus like floor dry. And it feels like that helps kind of control the mess a little bit more too, just because you're not like old days of a shop, like tripping over that that oil dry all over the place, and now you can kind of control that a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever actually used that stuff, the kitty litter. So we
It's
just,
terrible.
yeah, it is. It just makes everything look crappy.
It does.
You don't want that old gas station looking shop. You.
No, you don't. And when I started off in the industry, what I remember, well, when I like just some of my first jobs in our family shop were like at night I'd go clean the shop and then I'd take
Mhm.
out all the garbage. And I just remember how heavy those garbage cans were because you
All
would
right.
scoop it up and throw it in the garbage, and then I'd have to take them all out to the dumpster. And just like I was not a big guy, and so like you're lifting that garbage can off and trying not to to keep the lid up while you're trying to get that over without trying to dump everything all over the place. And what an absolute mess. I'm really happy that those oil, I don't even know what you call them. Like, I'm glad they came around, those mats, because
Yeah.
that just trying to
I
keep
don't.
stuff
I
clean.
think they
That's so
call
much
them
better.
pig mats. I don't know why they call them pig mats, but
Yes.
that's yeah. But we have
Yeah.
like a couple different sizes of them, and the big ones work really nice too. To like have in our tool room, like the roll around, like gear oil drums and stuff. They're kind of usually sometimes drippy. Though we park those on those big mats and stuff, which is kind of cool.
Well, shout out to whoever came up with pig mats because they
Yes,
are an
thank you,
absolute genius. Yeah,
Mr.
from the
Big Mat.
industry, we say thank you. Yeah, yeah. Well, so as we're talking through all of this, sorry for the side conversation because I could geek out. As I mentioned, just love that kind of conversation. But the reason we're here today is to talk more about culture, and I thought it was an interesting viewpoint from your end of I think we talk a lot about leadership and two leaders on how to build a good culture, how to keep a good culture, how to find the right people for your culture. But maybe we don't do enough about talking about the actual culture in the shop, like what drives you crazy, what makes a work environment fun, and just I think generally liking being around the people you're working with every day because you are spending so much time in a shop. Talk to me a little bit about that importance, right? Of maybe finger on the pulse of knowing what's going on in a shop, and just like, do my people like each other or don't they, and what do I have to do to solve
Hmm.
that?
Yeah, I feel like you hit on some really good points that I wasn't even really thinking of before. But what I was brainstorming earlier this morning, I was just thinking more of I think what people are looking for, and it does help to get along with your coworker and to like your boss for sure. I mean, those are some big things, but I really think like the shop culture is all encompassed around the shop and like the image of the shop, what is the business, what does it look like, what's the feel when you go into it, the main people running the shop, like how are they to deal with. I feel like those things are really important. So it's not just one. You could probably find little bits of good shop culture at many shops, right? They might have a good service manager, but then the owner's not nice, or they could be a good group of people, but the shop is dark and the equipment's old, that sort of thing. Like I really feel like the culture is kind of all encompassing, um, and that's what I feel like I've been really lucky with. I mean, I did build a shop, and I designed it and everything, and made it in such a way that's how I envisioned it. But also, I feel like I always thought about like trying to create a good place for people to work at and have fun, not just to work and make cars, but actually like enjoy themselves and have fun, even goof around. But yeah, to go back to that, I really feel like it's just everything with the shop. It's like the image, the reputation, what's their position in town. Are they the shop that's just a really specialist niche shop that only works on certain cars? Or are they like a shop that wants to bring all the local people in? Here in Bend, Oregon, we have tons of Toyotas and Sprinter vans and some European cars. So we try to tailor to them. Who are the people that are here? And we try to be extremely convenient towards people. We have, a pretty large crew that's fast moving. There's 13 of us here. So I feel like we can, I think last week we did 100 cars, and we can process a lot of cars really quickly. We're very efficient. When I really am confident in my 3 guys on the counter, they're just, they really like their job. I mean, that's number one. So like anyone who comes in, like they don't generally have sour attitudes and bad attitudes, and they, anyone who comes in, they want to talk to people. I was just telling you earlier, Jay, that I'll hit on again is we have a new mechanic that's been with me 3 weeks now, or a technician, I should say, right? We're trying to find technicians. But I really like how we found this person, because I was doing some crazy marketing. I don't know if you heard of Auto Shop Media, but I do lots of, new things. And I had, all the normal stuff going, the ZipRecruiter, Indeed, new stuff on WrenchWay. We're hitting up our social media stuff, Craigslist even. We ended up getting a technician from a parts runner guy that just loves our shop so much. He wanted to find us a technician. But this is a great example of like, the parts people that come into our shop and deliver us parts, I mean, they're always like waving and talking to us, and a lot of them will go through the shop and come in and say hi to our golden retriever shop dog, a super sweet Bailey dog, and everyone has to see her, and it's just a place where everyone likes to go to. I picture them like going to the transmission shop on the corner that it looks like a dungeon, and then they go to some other shops, and in here it's like the music's cranking, everyone's running around, and they're like, oh hey, thanks for the parts, say hi to the dog, like that's the culture, and that's what you want, and people gravitate towards that, right? Like I think that's proven. And this person, the parts guy, knew another shop in a neighboring town that the guy wasn't very happy, and he convinced us like, hey, you should check out these guys. We had hiring signs also all over the place, like on the front of the shop, even one for the parts drivers to see, like, we're hiring for a technician. But yeah, so that was really cool, and I really feel like if you set up everything like that, it makes things easier, and that is kind of the culture, the reputation that we have, and people, most of the people really enjoy that.
Yeah, well, I think there's just a ton of value in being nice, right? You talk about the parts driver, and you look at maybe even your vendor relationships, and that parts guy that's coming in, or parts woman that's coming in every single day, and how often you interact with them, especially now with like all of the hot shot stuff. Like there's always people coming in and out of a shop, and it's really easy to ignore them, or maybe like just, only complain to them when maybe they brought the wrong part and they probably weren't even responsible for it in the first place. Right. Like I think if you can treat everybody with respect, I think that's kind of the golden rule, right? Of just, just because they're the parts driver doesn't mean you treat them with any less level of respect, right? They're trying to just be nice, like that.
Yeah.
That makes life so much easier,
Jay, yeah.
in general.
And yeah, I mean, I know shop owners and other people get mad at parts drivers for taking a while or whatever, and it's just totally ridiculous. Like if you change that around and maybe give the parts driver some donuts once a month, like that's what you want. I mean, they're going to be like coming out for you and be happy to see you. Like people don't do it on purpose, but they're literally driving people away from their business. Why would they want to come there if they get yelled at for mixing up parts? And because those parts guys, I mean, it's kind of an entry level job that some do forever, and I'm glad they do it. But yeah, there's no reason for that.
Well, how often, like, it feels like I've seen this a lot where, and this isn't just in our industry, I think anybody kind of has seen this, but especially in our industry, where you're in a shop and that parts delivery person, or even the salesperson, whoever it is just getting an earful for something that wasn't even their fault. They had nothing to do with it, but that, that manager wants to make sure they're landing their point home on the dissatisfaction. And granted, if it's something that's happened time and time and time again, you're trying to kind of raise it up the flagpole a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
that seems like a really good instance or example that we've all seen in our careers, where somebody's just getting screamed at and they had nothing to do with it. And I've sat on the kind of observed that happen before and just been like, what are you accomplishing here? Like, what are you doing? You're just ruining this person's day who had no bearing on this whatsoever, but you just want to get your point home. And it's like, come on, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've worked there before. Those
Yeah.
places. Yes, not very much
They're
fun
awful,
at all.
right?
Yeah,
No,
not
no.
good culture.
And
That's the opposite. That's the people that are trying to leave those places. Yeah, yeah. They don't feel
100%.
safe. They don't feel respected.
No,
Not a good
those
scene.
people drive me crazy. So if you're listening to this and you're one of them that drive me crazy, I welcome you to reach out to me and talk to me and give me a valid reason as to like, and there are times where like in the course of doing business, you're going to get aggravated and things are going to go wrong. And
I've had to let some people go.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
I had a shop porter that like once a week we would get a call from random people on the street, calling in about how bad this kid drove our cars.
that's not great.
When you hear it for the third time, you're like, dude, you're just not a good driver.
Well, it's tough. And I think that kind of bleeds over into those technician relationships as well. Or maybe if you do have a parts person internally, or you've got even that relationship between technicians and service writers, right? Where if it becomes natural where you're just yelling at each other, then again, not probably the environment you're looking to be a part of. And growing up, even our family shop, we had an element of that, right? Where the wrenches were flying and F-bombs were flying as well. And it's not, it's not overly enjoyable by any stretch to kind of live in that fear. And I do think our industry has evolved a lot in that regard, because I think that was almost every shop back in the day, but now it feels like maybe the tide has changed. There is some better leadership in shops, or not even better leadership, just a different type of leadership than maybe what we grew up with.
It has come a long way for sure. Because I haven't had much of the wrench throwers in quite a while.
Thankfully.
Yeah, maybe we're all getting smarter. I don't know.
Well, and there's so much that impacts culture, right? When we look internally at a shop, the things that can frustrate us, one that never gets talked about, but I always think is fascinating, is one that you brought up on the intro to this in our conversation before we hit record, which is music. And
I was hoping
kind
you
of
were going to
the
say
role
music.
the role that music plays in a shop is probably way more important than it gets credit for.
That's true. Yeah, I don't want to bag on country music, but yeah, what Jay was mentioning was, as we were talking about some shops that we know of, like and it's not the country music, but it's the thing of it is, if you listen to the same music every single day and everyone doesn't like that, that's what it is. You're basically you're not including everybody, because people like variety. And if you have a shop with more than 2 3 people, chances are there's going to be someone in there that just wants some refreshing music. Just change it up. And it's just being respectful. It's making the culture good for everyone, right? And the customers. But it is funny that I worked at a shop in Northern California that it was country every single day. And I don't know what it was, but it was just kind of a dark atmosphere. And I even tried to talk to the owner, like, can we change it up one day? I'm dying here. And this new technician that I have, he had the exact same scenario. So maybe this is it, Jay. Maybe people that listen to country music don't listen to any other kind of music. It's country and Western. That's it. I don't know.
So as a country music guy, I listen to everything. Like but
I like it too.
Point taken. Like when I grew up in a shop, we're in rural Wisconsin, right? There was one radio station that would actually come in, and this is before we had Sirius XM and like all of the satellite radio, but like it did get really, really old, and they didn't even change up. This local radio station didn't even change up the playlist. So like every day it was the same songs at the same time, and it would just drive you absolutely insane. And I mean, you just look at like creature comforts of what make your life enjoyable. That if you're listening to the same radio every single day, it sometimes just nice to mix it up. And
Yeah.
I told you before, I've got a funny story to share in regard to music. And I had worked in a shop while I was going to tech school in Chicago, and we had a group that got along pretty good, but there was it was a national chain. I won't mention the name of the national chain, but we worked there, and there was this kind of our middle-aged tech at the time, right, which is probably about my age now, was this guy that had a shaved head. He looked like Stone Cold Steve Austin, big, like kind of ripped guy, and he was kind of the enforcer. Well, we had another guy that was about my age or just slightly older than me, and he was actually a really good tech. He was kind of the smartass, right? Like he was kind of like the funny guy, and so he would go screw with the radio station, and this guy really liked like heavy metal or country. It was one of the two. Like he liked one of them, and then this other guy would change it to the opposite of what he liked, and it was one of those things where you could just feel the tension building over the course of like 2 weeks. And I think we've all been there in a shop where you can kind of just feel that tension rising.
Oh yes.
And it ended with Stone Cold Steve Austin punching this guy like as he's getting into a customer's car, and I'm like, oh my god. here's this. I was 18 years old from small town Wisconsin, and I'm working at the shop in Chicago, and a guy gets punched within like the first 3 months I'm there, and it's just everybody has to go over and like break them up, and it was
that's great.
Kind of those welcome to the real world moments. Yeah. And luckily, it's the only time I ever saw somebody get punched in a shop. But it was he laid him down pretty good, and all because of music. It was the music choice and them screwing with each other.
I mean, I feel like if people, shop owners, mechanics listen to this stuff, I mean, hopefully they can take this home and just have some variety in their shops, because it is true. Yeah. Even if you're working in some office and the people listen to the same, maybe it's easy listening jazz hour every day, you're going to go insane, and it's not being respectful. And yeah, you got to kind of ask people, hey, it's, today it can be your day to check out the music. But yeah, that's a great story.
I was thinking of the movie like 40-Year-Old Virgin, where they work in like a Best Buy or something, and all the TVs are playing like that same kind of smooth jazz or whatever, like Michael Bolton or something in the background. And I'm like, that just gives you nightmares about what their days probably looked like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those, I'm just thinking about this technician that just came, and joined us. Like, those people never asked him if he wanted any other music or anything like that,
Yeah.
But I feel like,
it's like just be considerate.
Yeah, exactly. We keep talking about the music thing forever, but I think it's just, that's the main point is, you're trying to get along with the whole group of people. They might not like the same music as you, and, and you shouldn't be that stuck in your ways too, that you have to listen to the same music every day. Like, this is the one kind of music that's going to be,
Yeah. Well, it that extends into other things though too. When you think about it, you talked about how you like a clean shop and you don't want that dungeon feel. You want something that feels warm and inviting.
Yep.
And I'm sure inevitably you'll get a technician that maybe doesn't clean up after themselves, or is rushing to get a job done on a Friday afternoon and leaves their stall a complete mess because they need to get out and get home. And I do think there are times where you're just like, it's going to happen occasionally, but if it's if it's a trend, that's when it becomes concerning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes Monday morning, like this morning. If Friday is kind of crazy, it can, be that's probably the messiest this place gets. But generally, yeah, I mean, most sane people like it clean in a shop, like it's
Yeah.
really hard to work on a car if your tools are all over the place and you're like tripping over stuff and, the air hose reel doesn't work and, yeah, so keeping that goes along with culture as well, like keeping a nice, tidy, really organized shop makes it more efficient, keeps everyone happy. Like, technicians, looking at your WrenchWay survey, like shop equipment and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff is big.
Huge.
Yeah, it's huge because people, technicians that actually like their job and want to be able to fix cars, want all that stuff. They want it clean. They want good equipment, good training, to help
Yeah.
them succeed and to help them
Well,
better
and
themselves.
it seems like common sense, right? Like you want
It is,
that
yeah.
environment, you would desire that environment, but like how do you then have that conversation with a tech that might not be living up to your standard in terms of cleanliness?
Oh, why do you bring that stuff up? I just had that not too long ago.
I like to ask the hard hitting awkward questions.
That's great. This was kind of recent, so hopefully I'm seeing things super clearly and not just disgruntled over this guy. But I really feel like if someone can't, be a part of the team and kind of get with the program and understand that they're affecting other guys in their business, or have you ever had a mechanic with an attitude and doesn't want to clean up his own mess? He wants like someone else to clean it up because he's too important and he's working on other vehicles.
That one drives me crazy.
Oh man, so that kind of goes along more with, yeah, the team, the culture, fitting in with the group and being respectful. But I've totally had that, and this guy was with me for many years, and I would constantly. We kind of have a in bay in our big long shop here where the alignment rack is, and then we have a big heavy duty 2-post that'll lift like big sprinters up and stuff. And whenever he would work back there, he would leave all this stuff all over, for someone else to clean up. It drove me crazy. I would ask him over and over and over again, and he would even give me some pushback. Yeah, so I don't have that right now. Everyone really likes it clean, and most people, like, hey, you left some rotors back there. Like, oh, no problem. I'm gonna go clean that up. I don't want to, be a jerk to the next guy working over there. But yeah, some of the guys just don't care, or they have a little chip on their shoulder. I don't know, but
How much of that comes down to ego though, right? Because I think that example that you just used of like I'm too important to do this small task, it's really irritating because when you see kind of that really good tech, I always talk about how much I love a professional tech. And when I say professional, they're very clean. They get along with everybody that they work with. They don't always have to be the loudest person in the shop, but like kind of that lead by example, just really good person. It is one of the coolest things. But then you do run across occasionally kind of that egocentric tech that has too much pride, and almost like if you get a couple of those in the shop and those egos start to really clash, it can make things ugly pretty quick.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, that's when you have to intervene and separate them or get rid of one of them, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, this is a good point on the podcast. I mean, for technicians that listen to this stuff, I mean, doing some self-reflecting. I mean, I know some owners that are like that,
For sure.
and
For sure.
I can definitely, take out the trash. I can mop. I clean up. The guys joke around because sometimes I go into this crazy spring cleaning frenzy. They're like, oh God, Gabe's like reorganizing cleaning. And yeah, it's usually like a big explosion goes off and I get rid of lots of things. And I give everyone some flack for, leaving some stuff around under their shelves or something, and everyone cleans up. But yeah, I mean, these technicians, I mean, yeah, you can be super good at fixing cars. You can be efficient. You can be a great, diagnostician that can use a lab scope, all that stuff. But if you don't get along with a group very well, or feel like you're above everyone else, that doesn't work out the greatest. Like, I don't have it in my shop where I have a shop foreman. I have 6 technicians and a helper. So, and they all kind of do a little bit of everything. I mean, I definitely have some with their forte. I do have the master diagnostic guy that is insane with the lab scopes, and you should see his tool cart. It's something else. Beauty. Yes.
Yeah.
And I have A techs that are just master producers, can fix everything, and I have guys that are really good at Toyotas and can do some other stuff, and I have some, there is some fortes in there, but I don't have one guy that just does all the diag and one guy that just does the engines and one guy, everyone kind of does everything, and there's no leader out there, so everyone kind of takes care of their own stuff, and try to keep it on equal terms, so they can get along, be a part of the team, share the equipment, and hopefully put it back how they found it. So I try to separate any kind of someone just trying to be another boss of them, and just like making more issues basically.
Yeah, couple things there. I love the fact that you lead by example, right? You're not afraid to go take out the trash. You're not afraid to go clean up if you need to. And I think that kind of sets the stage for everybody else. Then you're not falling into that same trap where your ego is so big that you can't do that stuff. And I do think leading by example is such an important piece to that. But then, just like, I don't know, what you talked about with the fact that you've got a shop, and I view a shop a lot of times like a puzzle, right? Where you have to put the puzzle pieces together in order to get the right mix of people, because you're probably going to have some people that like to talk more than others. You're going to have others that really don't want to have that conversation. They're there to work and get whatever they need done. And I think some of the best cultures I've seen are where they do have that like perfect mix of people that complement one another, and not only just their technical skill set, but their personalities. And you'll see kind of the old grumpy tech get along really good with like a younger person. And I just think that's one of the coolest things ever, where maybe they can help each other out and for the betterment of the team, right? Like people just like when they enjoy being around each other, it makes life better if you enjoy the people here.
Yeah. I like your point on, looking at the shop as a puzzle, and our job is to, do puzzles every day with the cars, right?
Yeah.
A lot of puzzles, but yeah. And it kind of makes me think about, I do spend a lot of time and energy trying to hire and attract the right people, but also, as you know, Jay, like there's not a ton of these technicians out there or automotive service professionals to work on the counter that know about the cars, but also great customer service. You kind of a lot of times have to hire what you can get, and I think fortunately what's happened in my shop time and time again, which is not always great or at the greatest timing, but if you set up a culture like this and make it clear of how you want it run and how you want everyone to get along and be equal, and make it clear that you're trying to create the best shop for them and give them the best opportunity to do all this stuff. Like the guys that don't normally fit in kind of like weed themselves out, time and time again. Like the one person that constantly leaves the messages or starts to push back for certain things that are just there's no reason for it, like everything I do is to try to like help the guys, with new equipment or have it cleaner or, do something to make things more efficient, give them more training. Like everything is to improve their stuff. And if you have guys that, don't want to go along with that or start pushing back, and it starts, and then it starts affecting other people. And, like you were just talking about, 2 negative guys together. Because it can, you can even turn positive guys negative if they hear it every day, just like country music every day. It's going to get negative. Okay, I won't say that anymore.
that was a great way to tie it back. That was really, really good. I do.
But
I, when you look at that, and I think you hit on a key point there, that so many shops find themselves chasing their tail because they are always desperate to find people, right? And so that inherently just pushes you to maybe make some more of those impulse hires rather than going through the due diligence and really being intentional. I always talk to shops about kind of having almost that avatar in mind of the perfect tech, and kind of almost creating that person you're interviewing up against that avatar, because I do think you've got to be crystal clear on what you think is good for your shop, because not every shop's going to be the same either, right? In terms of what they're looking for, personalities, and even technical
Mhm.
skill. It really, I think, comes down to the fact that it's really hard to build a culture if you're hiring on desperation, if you're constantly desperate to hire. And I think those that have followed WrenchWay over the years, and kind of our company, you've seen our shift from the general recruiting to more of the development. And I think that was because we saw over time where if you're just constantly trying to hire that master tech and you're really not having success with it, yet you're just constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're chasing your tail, that just general development of people might be a better opportunity to kind of get that right culture set of what you want. And granted, I get that I'm painting a rainbow here where, I'm making it sound like it's really easy just to bring people in and develop them. But if you've chased your tail at this for years or decades even, and you're constantly finding yourself in that position, and you can't seem to get that culture that you want, at what point do you just kind of look at it and say, maybe we should try a different approach here because what we're doing isn't working? Again, I'm sorry to go off on my rant, but it is one of those things where, as you're trying to build a culture but you can't intentionally hire, I think you're going to find yourself in a really tough spot.
The hiring is such a hard subject, and like you were saying, it's it's really hard to find the right people. I mean, I've been doing it for quite some time, and I got to say, like, even, I mean, we're pretty good with doing multiple interviews. We do a working interview pretty much every time. Little side note, I have a lot of people miss out on the working interview. It's pretty interesting. Like people that have great resumes, like, oh my God, and great phone interview or person to person interview, they just don't even show up for the working interview. Huge red flag. It's like, what? All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't even get along with me for a couple hours and get paid to see if you like it here, then it's probably not going to work. But what I was going to say is, yeah, of course, like you need to check, certain things off the list right away. Just like, is there any red flags with this person as far as like the simple things? Um, I don't know if I really need to go into that, but just like the basic
Well,
requirements.
we could do an entirely different episode just on that point,
True.
because that, like, even in your position, when I'm looking at that, and I was just reading a thread on Facebook the other day that talked about working interviews, and there were a lot of texts that were like, listen, I'm just not going to do a working interview. What I think you've created is kind of that pull type effect where that's the power of culture. If you've got kind of that, our industry is much smaller than I think people think it is, right? And word
Mhm.
travels fast. And if there are, you've created some of those internal raving fans that really, really enjoy working for you, or that parts runner that sees that culture each and every day and goes out to, have drinks with their friend and says, hey, this shop is phenomenal, like one of the coolest shops you'd ever see. I think then you have a little bit of leverage to say, let's do a working interview because people want to come to work there. I think where people get that wrong is if their culture isn't great and they don't have the nice facilities, they don't have kind of the things that you've worked so hard at really kind of building and maintaining. It is a big ask to have that tech come in for a working interview, and a lot of folks are so impatient in their hiring process that they're forget the working interview. Come in, like sign. You want to sign this
Yeah.
paper? Like, come on in. Let's get your benefits set up and let's get you rolling. So I think I say all of that just to say I appreciate the fact that you're patient enough to go through a due diligence process and actually kind of get to know the person a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, what I was kind of leading into before too was, you could do, the phone interview, person to person interview, working interview. I can tell you right now, like you still don't know how this guy is going to be in 90 days or a year. Okay, that's the big point. So you kind of like, do your due diligence. Make sure that he wants to work in a shop like this. You're going to be working with people. I definitely have that sometimes. Some technicians that work at a big flat rate shop, or I don't know, maybe a really small shop, they're not really used to working with a bunch of people side by side, and they don't want to have, we have a production meeting every single morning, like lots of meetings, a full shop meeting Tuesday at lunch every week. And some people don't want meetings. They don't want to be talked to. So that's like stuff right away that's going to weed out some people that aren't going to fit in this culture.
What do you do in your production meeting? I'm just curious to like when you're starting off the day with a production meeting, what is it? What does that entail?
So it's a couple things, and I'll tell you the like secret of it. I mean, the main, we have a big TV on the wall, big flat screen that shows the schedule for all the technicians for the day, and shows all their different cars. And the manager kind of goes real quick over each of the guy's schedule, and we kind of check over what they've had before. But what I was going to say, the not the secret or the main reason why we do this though is it's a starting point in the day. Like my guys on the counter are so good. They know everything what's going on in the shop. They know what cars are in the shop, how long they probably have to be working on them. They know the schedule, and they know it's going to change around throughout the day too. So it's not like a huge thing to tell the technician what every single car they have, because like the afternoon cars, the 3 o'clock cars might get swapped around. But the main thing is to get everyone together. It's the whole crew, except for 2 of the service advisors will still be on the counter. But it's just everyone to be there together. They're in a big circle, always joking. My manager is hilarious, who does the production meeting. He's like a comedian. And then, something, he'll come up with something over the weekend, won't be very PC, or it'll just be something off the wall. And the meeting always goes a little sideways at the end, and then it's break. Let's get to work, But it's much better than the organic start where everyone trickling in at different times. There's always the early ones, the late ones. Some of them want to get going to work right away. Some of them are, working on their own stuff. You know what I mean? From the weekend that they had in there. So this is like a bring everyone together, a start. And I'm usually in that meeting as well when I'm here. And but yeah, and then Tuesday, the shop buys everyone lunch, and then the service advisors, and then the assistant service advisor as well, and all the technicians are in our break room, and we all eat lunch together. And then just the last 20 minutes of the lunch hour, the manager does more like a technician meeting, just like
interesting.
How we did last week, how the hours were looking, kind of technician stuff, stuff with equipment or tools in the shop. The very last like couple minutes, we do like a technician sharing meeting. So if there was something weird development on a Sprinter that we figured out, or something like that, what scan tools are working with what cars. We work on a lot of, later model European cars and things like that. And it's hard to figure out, scan tool stuff to even reset, oil change stuff, things like that. But yeah, it's important, just like the consistency though,
consistency, and then the fact that you're proactively driving communication. I talked to a lot of shop leaders about that side too. You mentioned our voice of technician report. That communication side always comes through in that report of like, I'm not being communicated to enough. I'm not being like, nobody cares what I think. And all of those things that if we leave it up to the technician to communicate to the leadership team, is probably not going to be communicated until you have that blow up or that dust up that we were talking about earlier. And so I talk to so many shop managers about that of, it's not the technician's job to drive that communication. It is your job to drive that communication. And doing those production meetings, I think, is a hugely impactful and helpful way to do that. I love the point that you made about kind of the natural start to your day where it would feel weird if you didn't have it. And then the lunch part, turning something that's fun into adding a little bit of productivity conversation to it, I think is brilliant. That's a really, really nice setup.
Yeah, and I mean, really, all the guys like Tuesday because the shop buys a nice lunch. We'll get the way overpriced trendy burgers from Ben Burger, or like we'll order like tons of Olive Garden, or like kind of whatever, for the whole shop with drinks and everything. So it's they feel like they get treated a little bit, and they usually watch like the funny videos on YouTube for the whole time that we're not having a meeting. What is it, like the fail army or something? So they're all just laughing out there, and then yeah. And some people are more into the meetings than some of the other ones. I have some people that are just totally great and fine with it, and some of the guys seem like they're okay, is it done yet? Let's get to work. But
it's an interesting dynamic, and even going back to music selection, even like the food selection.
Here we go again,
like,
Jay.
yeah.
This isn't a music podcast.
I don't want Olive Garden. I, in fact, love Olive Garden. So no hate to Olive Garden. Great stuff. But no, it is cool that you do all of that though. And kind of as we're closing this out, I always feel like there's so much I can learn from you on the culture side of things, just because of what a great operation you run, and how important kind of that growth mindset is with you and your team, and then how important kind of the fun aspects are to you and your team as well, and just really kind of driving that want to work with each other, because I think we've all worked for places that don't have that, and it is not a fun place to be. Everybody lives on kind of this tense edge that isn't fun. I love the point that you made about if there's something that the group can learn from one individual. I talk a lot about that too, where it's if you made a mistake, that's fine, but let's learn from it. And it's not going to be something that we're going to shove down your throat. It's something that hopefully we can all learn from and get better from. And I think that keeps people from hiding stuff too, right? Because if they're not afraid that you're just going to throw a stick over their head, like it's like something valuable can be learned out of it.
I mean, I have some of those differences in personality right now. Like I have an A-Tech that has been with me for 9 years now, a young guy that he was a shop porter that's now an A-Tech, and he talks to me 100% real about everything. So if it was something mistake or how to fix something, there's just no weirdness there. And then I have another guy that has a lot more experience, another A-Tech, and it's just not used to working with a big group of people. So sometimes the meetings and maybe redoing some things, having a mistake is a little bit harder for him just because he's not used to it, but he's grown with that, and he understands that, like, I'm not going to be mad. I don't care. I mean, I was a technician. I straight up blew up an engine once, like I've had my things. God, it's not
We've all
easy.
done a lot of stupid. Yeah.
So, but that's a really good point. Like having, the communication open and the culture, like getting everyone on the same page that we are trying to, fix these cars, and we're trying to make the customers really happy. We're trying to make this product that is really good in the shop, to put it out into the public. If we're all on that same page, it's easier for the guys. But yeah, I was thinking about when you were mentioning the technician sharing thing. For my example and experience with that is, being a shop owner for, coming on 25 years now, and being a mechanic my whole life, I've seen a lot of different car problems, right? Like when you have 6 technicians, and you only hear about the ones that stump them, you remember those. But my technicians, if they're just, if another guy's busy doing suspension and an engine job, whatever, he's not going to hear about, the crazy car that we had that came from another shop, and 3 different guys in this shop here tried to fix it, and we finally figured it out. He's not going to hear about that, which is a bummer. So that's why you want to share and tell everyone, like, hey, especially if it's like, Toyotas are our thing. We're super good with them. But if there's something new that pops up on those Toyotas, it's really important for all of us to share it, because we want to be like the Toyota professionals in the area, and keep that going. So yeah, that stuff is, huge benefit to the shop and everyone. And yeah, keeps that good culture stuff going, the sharing.
I love that approach, and love everything you do culture related. This week's episode of Beyond the Wrench is brought to us by Jasper Engines and Transmissions. Okay, your customer's engine or transmission has failed, but now is not the time for them to trade their vehicle. Not without a working engine or transmission. Besides, would they have kept their vehicle another 3 to 5 years if their engine or transmission had not let them down? If you answered yes, then Jasper Engines and Transmissions is your choice to give your customer's vehicle new life and many thousands of miles of enjoyable driving performance. When considering the high cost of a new or newer used vehicle, there's a pretty good case to be made for replacing a drivetrain component that has failed or is delivering poor performance. Rather than trading their car, truck, van, or SUV, install a quality remanufactured Jasper product for less than your customer would have to invest in a new vehicle or a newer used vehicle. Check out their website at jasperengines.com to learn more about the money-saving value of Jasper. As we get close to closing out this podcast, do you have some quick hitting fun questions for you that in no way did I prepare you for ahead of time?
Perfect.
But they're very easy. They're very, very easy. I'll make sure they're easy. But first question, what is your favorite type of food?
Probably Mexican.
I wish I should have a whiteboard here with the tally of the different types of food that people answer that question, because Mexican would win in a landslide, and I'm here for it. I love Mexican food. So that
I was going to say you probably don't get as good a Mexican food over there, I imagine, because you're just so far from Mexico. We're right on top of California, and California has incredible Mexican food.
We've got a couple solid Mexican spots, but anytime I'm traveling, and if it's anywhere where I know they're going to have good Mexican food, I make sure to go out of my way to get said good Mexican food. I will say I had this debate with my wife once. There's a kind of a fancier sushi joint in O'Hare in the airport. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm not eating there. It's sushi in an airport. That's disgusting. And I said, well, how do you think a high-end sushi restaurant in Chicago would get their sushi? Well, they're going to fly it there. So like, it's probably even fresher at the airport. And so we go back and forth. Every time we go past that restaurant, I stop and get some sushi. But it is funny with geographic constraints that's what it led to in my mind. Second question, what was your first car?
It was a 66 Volkswagen Beetle.
Was it a cool one or one that was like barely running?
I bought it with no engine. It didn't even have an engine. I towed it home, and I did everything wrong like several times. And yeah, check this out. I got a bus engine, which was a 1600. So the 66
nice.
Beetle, I think, came with a 1200 maybe. I don't remember all the details of those cars. I love those cars, but so yeah, the swing axle, the transmission didn't fit the bigger like 1600 bell housing, but being like I think I was 15 or something like that, I just drove those big 4 bolts that put the engine next to the transmission. I just kept tightening those babies and just jammed the flywheel right into the transmission. The engine couldn't even turn.
That's how you learn, right?
Isn't that awesome?
There's some good learning lessons. Did yours have heat?
When you go uphill,
Yeah.
when it gets hot.
One of my good friends in high school had one of those, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is in Wisconsin, not the most fun
Ooh.
thing to drive in the winter.
Yeah, it's probably pretty bad out there.
Yeah, not fun. All right, last fun question for you: are you a morning person or a stay up late person?
I'm definitely a morning person.
Yeah, what time you getting up?
For sure. 6 or earlier.
Nice.
This morning I think it was earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess my clearest state of mind and most productive is in the morning. I mean, at the shop here, I typically work Monday, Tuesday. Sometimes a little bit on Wednesday, but I just feel like in the mornings, from 6 o'clock to noon, I can just get an incredible amount of stuff done. I feel like just lots of decision making, lots of emails, marketing, all the stuff that I do, and then in the afternoon, like if my wife Becca asked me to do something like 8 o'clock, I'm like, sorry,
Go to bed.
brain is toast. I'm just lethargic. I can read or watch TV in the evening, and I'm just
I think that's changed with me over the years, where I'm definitely more inclined to go to bed a little bit earlier now, and the amount of sleep I get now compared to 10 years ago is significantly less. Like I think if I go to bed at 9, I'm almost guaranteed to be up at like 3 or 3:30, which is a really weird thing. And then I try to force myself to go back to sleep, and it never works. And then I should just get up and start working. And so that's what I'll typically do, is just start working. And then it'll be like 9:30 in the morning. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I am exhausted. I'm like, well, yeah, you've been up since 3:30 in the morning.
Oh man, that's early.
That's not an everyday thing. That's like a like once every other week thing, and then I just drag the rest of the day.
And then coffee is like the best thing in the whole world. So of course, waking up to coffee is this phenomenal thing we get to do every day.
I will say, going back to the geography thing, you in the Northwest love coffee at a whole different level. I thought I liked coffee, and I do like good coffee, but I remember I went, this is probably a couple of years ago. I had meetings. This was Seattle, but I had multiple meetings over the course of the day, and it went from like morning meeting coffee, like mid-morning meeting coffee, lunch coffee. And I remember I was meeting somebody for like a happy hour, and that was coffee. And I'm like, I don't know if I'll ever fall asleep. This is all like high rev coffee, right? This is not like this is not watered down stuff. This is you're getting the good stuff.
Yeah. No, we drink a lot of coffee here at the shop too. That's actually every annually I'll do like a yearly meeting in the beginning of January, and that's one of the funny like statistics or numbers that I talk to the guys about, because we have a coffee service. And then we also, like, the shop buys everyone coffee Friday morning from Starbucks, which is quite expensive for the whole shop, So, like, I forget how many thousands of dollars we spend on coffee once a year for the shop, but it's something else.
Another perk.
Yes, another perk. I forgot. Yeah, and then at home, me and my wife are crazy. Like fresh ground coffee. We like organic, super special. We spend tons of money on it. It's like a drug deal down at the natural food store, getting some some really dark, oily beans and grinding them. Oh my God, we're crazy.
I've definitely got to step my coffee game up and get the good stuff. But it's been such a fun conversation. You and I always have fun conversations. I love the fact that you'll go with my flow on the podcast, and really coming into this one, it was like, let's talk about culture, and just had an absolute blast. Like, this is always so fun to talk to you, and I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully it's not another 3 years before we do it again. But man, absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Jay. I really appreciate your time and having me on here again. Hopefully we can, hopefully we help some people out.
I hope so too. Thank you, my friend. That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you liked this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, did you know Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team? WrenchWay is an online community dedicated to promoting and improving automotive and diesel careers. We help technicians find the best shops to work at, and we also help auto, diesel, and CTE instructors get more support from local industry. You can learn more by visiting wrenchway.com.